Good morning, everyone. GM, and welcome to another episode of FOMO Hour. Today is Thursday, May 1st, 2025. It's going to be May. May 1st is finally here, May Day, historically the month where everyone sells and goes away. But this time feels different. And our question is buy in May and pray the correct strategy this year? We're going to get into it on today's show. Still no Farokh. He'll be back next week, but we got Mando and Logan in the house. Boys, Jim, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing, man. It's actually a holiday here, so thank you for understanding. 1st of May is a holiday across a lot of Europe.
Yeah.
So
in South America.
Yeah.
I'm still shackled.
Yeah.
Is it a holiday for you guys?
Not in the U.S.
No.
But
in Peru.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. It's a holiday here. My coffee shop was not even on its wheels when I came around the corner this morning. So I'm uncaffeinated, but otherwise feeling really good here. Weather perfect. Last few days in Peru, trying to savor it here.
Man, I don't know if I've done a single uncaffeinated show in my life, to be honest. So I'm wishing you luck. Logie, that is not going uncaffeinated is not in my playbook or in my wheelhouse. Folks, we've got a lot to talk about. Thank you for joining us. If it's a holiday where you are, if it's May Day, Labor Day in Peru, thank you for spending time with us here. We've got a lot to talk about. Market's looking good. Some nice earnings out of Robinhood. We got Bitcoin moving. Some alts are moving. Schwab, Morgan Stanley, E-Trade are going to get into crypto trading. Ripple tries to buy Circle, gets rejected. We've got Solana Institute trying to bring stocks on chain. Worldcoin making some moves here, coming to the U.S., launching their mini orb. This new app, Axiom, wasn't even on my radar, backed by Y Combinator. Now the number 2 app on Solana by revenue. Did $10 million last week. We've got Anthony Pompliano. He's launching a $200 million crypto SPAC. So watch out for that. Crypto AI is heating up. We've got this new meme coin launchpad, Boop.fun. It's dropping any minute now. It might actually go live during the show, and it's coming with an airdrop and some very interesting incentives and some new runners in the Solana meme streets. Then the second half of the show here, we'll talk with our good old friend, Emily Loves Crypto, about what she has been building. Before we dive in, quick shout out to our partner, Wallet Connect. Wallet Connect is the connectivity network shaping the future of on-chain UX. If you've connected to a Web3 app, you've seen Wallet Connect, that blue logo. It's everywhere. An icon of trust in crypto is recognizable as Visa at the checkout. If you want to learn more, follow at Wallet Connect on X and Telegram to stay ahead of what's next. We love our partners as always. Mando, I don't know that I'm going to have the intro music for you, but if you're ready, let's just get right into
it. No intro music.
Yeah, no Sims. I don't have the intro.
We don't need the intro on a day like today, do we? It's a relaxed show.
It's a holiday. Relaxed.
It's looking good, man. Definitely a strong market here. It's always good that on the quiet days, crypto just goes higher. Like we had that dip yesterday, and it felt a little bit, like that figure wasn't that good. But then the narrative kind of emerged that bad is good here, and that if there's going to be a recession, it's going to be more chance of money printing, more chance of cowbell essentially, and that is going to mean that that's going to be good for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin reacted very well to it. Stocks actually even managed to eke out a gain, which was pretty surprising given they looked like they were heading for a bad day, and they're higher again today. So yeah, there's this feeling now that this will probably lead to some form of stimulus now, and that the Fed will kind of act. And everything's just gone a little bit higher on the back of that. So a strong day. Bitcoin's heading back up to 100K area. And a lot of the stuff that we were talking about that already looked slightly stretched, I would say, is right back up again. So big moves in AI coins. A lot of the meme coins have taken another leg higher. And some of the L1s are doing decently. I think all the coins that we kind of mentioned could have a run here, having a run. In AI, we've mentioned virtuals could do it, as you said, and that's had a big run. It looks like on the back of this platform. Similarly, across the board, that's been a pretty big run. So Tao's is moving higher again today. AI16Z, Fartcoin, obviously, all strong. So generally, a very strong period here for the AI coins. Memes, I would say that the larger memes haven't done as well today. It's been more of the mid tiers that are generally outperforming. I've seen they're doing okay, but they're not doing they're not leading the pack as they have been for a while. Fartcoin's obviously the kind of leader there, but they're up 5% ish, or at least some of the larger ones. But it's the ones in the $25 to $200 million range, which I think are really starting to see some moves higher at the moment. So big percentage gains in some of those, and that wealth effect that we kind of spoke about is being felt. And then in the L1s, again, I think we kind of mentioned the coins that we felt like could be strong if this got going, and that was Hype. Hype's had a move above 20, nearly 21 here. We've seen a move in Sonic again. That's up about 10% today. I guess Tau, you could argue, is an L1 as well. There's a range here that just feels strong. Sui is having their big it's their big dev meeting in Dubai at the moment. So that's a bunch of announcements on the back of that, including an ETF announcement today, I think. So that's up about 5 to 10%. So I think we've called it pretty well in terms of the coins that you would want to own if Bitcoin went up to 100K here. And of course, Reccoin. Reccoin's up 45% yesterday. Big move.
How about that? Obi, he's on a man on a mission. He wants to sell 1 million drinks this year.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I've seen the numbers. I think he might be able to do it, which would be wild for the first year. Yeah,
it's up 100% on the week. That's
if he does sell 1 million drinks, I don't know. There's a chance that business, and there's a flywheel, obviously, as you saw that we did a buyback.
That was what kickstarted this, and that was the headline that really grabbed my attention because I guess I wasn't expecting it. Man,
yeah. So I don't know. I think there's a chance, and obviously how this works is that all the NFT holders got shares in the company, and then further to that, we did a buyback, and there's some form of flywheel going with the revenue of the business. So I think it's like a mini Pudgy play at the moment, right? Obviously we're not as big there, but there's a lot of potential in what he could do here. And I know he's got a bunch of different drops coming. There's an announcement coming today. And let's see where it goes.
I mean, I can lay out the Rec Bull case. For one, it's all over Dubai. In all these streams I'm seeing the Rect brand, these cases of Rect drinks behind the speakers. And I saw that firsthand in Miami at Basel. And I know the kind of impact that has for the people who are there. And they get the cans in their hand and they're trying it. I'm like, hey, this is actually good. And I've tried the new flavor and it is good. It is genuinely good. So they've got a good product. You've got Ovi driving the ship. He is hustling and announcing the buybacks. And then just from a TA perspective, you look at this chart and it surges, it goes down, then you've got the time capitulation, and then it starts to curl. This is one of the single best looking opportunities, I think, when you're trying to find those tokens that can go 5, 10x or more. And as you mentioned, a team that's behind it, along with the community, of course, the Rec community. So there's a lot of factors. I like this one a lot. I'm talking my bag. Disclosure, I have been buying this. I bought more yesterday because I think there's still a lot of upside with a $27 million market cap or $44 million FDV. So, Obi, we're rooting you on. Curious to see what the announcement is here today. Man,
what's Pengu worth these days? 1.2 billion?
Yeah, sounds right. I mean, it's one of those things where people were getting hung up on, it fell 80% or whatever, but it's still 700 million or a $1 billion FDV.
And is that FDV real? I know they burnt a lot.
I think around 13% they burned.
So I don't know if that's factored in here or not. So I guess it's not because it's still showing the circulating supply. So the FTV would be lower than that. Then, it's similar, right? It had the big run up, or it had the same. It's very similar chart to Rect, right? Almost they mirror it almost exactly. Early spike.
When do we combine? You know, when's the big the 2025 merger?
Man, that would be a very interesting M&A deal for me.
Yeah.
My world's colliding.
That's after Pudgy Penguins buys OpenSea, then Rect, right?
Yeah, God.
Man, Luca's distribution with these Rect drinks, man. That's interesting.
I'm not saying I haven't thought about it, but I think we're gonna grow. I think we're gonna hit some big numbers this year for the Rect. I mean, of what I've seen for what Obi's got coming, I think it's gonna be a cool play.
It's exciting times for sure. I'm excited to get the public sale open. I think folks are chomping at the bit to get these drinks. I'm going to be bringing them to my Chicago suburb. So if you're around the barbecues this summer, you're going to have some abstract apple drinks in your hand. I want to come back to some of these majors. So ETH now up 5% on the day, 1840, Sol's at 152. Mando, are you looking at any of these majors? I mean, let's put Bitcoin aside. I think we're all in agreement. Bitcoin looks pretty good.
See what I've been doing actually. Do you guys ever use GMX?
I don't.
Yeah. So if you go to GMX, when you bring it up, because it's maybe it's interesting for some people in the audience. Just do GMX. Just you?
GMX.com. Sorry, I really don't.
You just type in GMX and find it, and then hit the first link. Right. Oh God, the decentralized perp exchange. So I used to be like in JLP, and then I was like, you know what, I don't love some of the L1 plays here, so I was like, I need to find something else. So you go to that earn section on the top, and you go down. And why don't you sort by APY there? Yeah. So what they have here, so how GMX works is you can essentially go along the perp fees for a certain pair. Okay. But interestingly, what GMX does is you don't always have to take the underlying risk of the pair. So see that Fartcoin pair right there?
Yeah, I'm looking at that.
So that actually, the underlying, you actually have a risk of 50% Bitcoin, 50% USDT, but you earn your fees based on Fartcoin trading.
Interesting.
So you can basically put on be long Bitcoin. 50% stable, 50% Bitcoin, and then be long basically the fees on some of this more risky stuff. So I've got Pengu, because Pengu similarly is BTC, USDC, and Fartcoin. So I've got quite big positions in both of these at the moment, alongside some other ones. So I basically you can be long Bitcoin, but long the trading fees of more degen stuff. And I've liked that that's kind of like my new JLP more recently, because I just prefer it in terms of the risk profile and
you can win both ways, right? You basically just want volume, or I guess
so Pengu has made me a ton recently, because I had a big position on there just in the view that people would trade Pengu. And basically you can basically have be long Bitcoin and stables and get 30% APY with some of those. So that's been the base. That is the base of my portfolio now. It's this long Bitcoin and stables with a trading fee kicker based on degen activity. Yeah. And then and then obviously I have Epic and I have Rect, but then I just trade perps on some of the more risky stuff. So and I only really have 2 perp positions. And I have and there's a Fartcoin and Tau at the moment.
Yeah.
And then I have some doing some Sonic farming as well, but that's a bit different.
Yeah, and I was watching that 120 line on Fartcoin. You folks may recognize the logo on the new hat, shiny new green Fartcoin hat. We were up against $1.20. That's the level. I think it was the third or fourth time knocking on it. It wasn't clear we were going to get through it. Then we smashed through last night. Chart looks good. Chart looks real good there. Why? So JLP. So it sounds like you're not in JLP anymore. Is it because you're a little bit more bearish on Sol?
I'm just more bullish on Bitcoin. So JLP is 65%,
Gotcha.
but it's obviously 45% of risky coins, but 45% of that is Solana, 10% of that is Bitcoin, and 10% of that is ETH. And my view is, and also if you go to JLP, because the amount of trading that's happening on, if you go to their yield, if you just type in JLP yield, the size of the JLP pool over the last year has gone up a lot. And the amount of trading, at least over the last couple of months, has gone down quite a lot. So it's only 11% APY now. So it's like, do I want to own that basket of L1s for 11%? Or do I want to own 50% Bitcoin, 50% USDC and earn 30%? And it still kind of has that kicker of like the more risky stuff. And then obviously I have lots of other risky stuff, but that's now become my like set it and forget it kind of position.
Makes sense.
Which was JLP, and I think I'll probably have it in those pools for a long time now.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you walking us through that. Logie, any fresh perspective on your side on the majors, broader market here on May 1st?
Yeah, nothing crazy from my perspective. I'm trying to pay a little bit closer attention to some of the more risky assets. At this point in time, where call it trenches, whatever. But I'm still just final few days in Peru here. I've been a little less active overall in terms of actual actions whilst here, but keep buying Bitcoin. That's I feel super comfortable. Never really waver. I've been through a few cycles now, so it's a little bit easier, of course, every time. But just keep dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin. I feel like that's something that this monstrosity of headlines that we talk about every single day. This feels like the one that you can look back in 5-10 years and be like, yeah, they were kind of beating us over the head with it. So. Otherwise, I'm not deviating too far. I still keep kicking myself about not buying more Fartcoin.
Yeah.
I was just thinking as you pulled up the chart here, Tyler, because I was on the show maybe my first week in Peru as well, or second week, I'm not sure, but which was only a couple weeks ago, and it was at like $500 million. And I was saying the same thing then. Like I wish I had bought
all
more.
the way up, my friend.
I know. It's been silly, but. No, I'm not deviating. I mean, like, I feel like if things are going to get real silly again, the winners are going to win. And Fartcoin and Bitcoin are two of the winners, two of the very strongest winners. Bitcoin, of course, being the ultimate champion. But I don't feel like I need to stray too far beyond that.
Bitcoin looks real strong here. That is a fact. It is wild that just 3 weeks ago, we were tapping 75K again. And just how quickly things can shift. The ETFs actually were red for the first time, but they've seen massive inflows. And IBIT is on just a massive green streak. I'll run through a few headlines. We've got some breaking news out of the trenches.
If you go back to listen to those shows at that exact time, we were like, this is the moment. I think at 78K, we were like, just start buying.
Yeah.
And then I thought we'd range around 85 for a bit longer, but it's been very strong.
Yeah, that's what's been striking. I think the stock market has been surprising to me as well. So we saw negative GDP yesterday. It's like some people were saying, okay, it's been a relief rally. We were oversold. You're selling every pump. But now, like S&P, it's up quite a bit off the bottom here. Like went sub 5,000. It's at 5,600. It's up 12%. we're now down less than 4% on the year. And I don't want to get too overly bulled up here. I feel like we're all just waiting for the bottom to fall out. But like we've had all this terrible economic data, like the tariffs are going to disrupt everything. So like I'm trying to, like, it doesn't mesh with what we're seeing. And I guess I was talking to Sam Stats. He's pointing to like the disconnect between Main Street and Wall Street. So like McDonald's is hurting right now, Walmart, but up top, like Facebook smashed earnings. I think Microsoft did as well. So perhaps the big players are going to be doing well enough through this to carry the markets. But I don't know. It's been hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, look, I'm not that bullish on the economics of the situation in the US, but as we always know, that like that can be quite a big departure from what happens in markets. And I think the market is looking through to what might happen in like
rates are back up
6 months, 12 months here, and assuming that the Fed's going to have to move.
Interesting. Looks like the 10-year just popped up about 0.05. Well, that's the macro talk. I want to talk some quick headlines. I'm just going to run through them. And then I want to get to this breaking news out of Boop. So Worldcoin officially launches in the U.S. Logie, hold your thoughts. We may come back to this here in a second. They're in 6 cities. They also launched a mini orb device. A little bit less intrusive, though you still have to grapple with the question of the data that you're giving up. MetaPlanet, the Japanese MicroStrategy, they're spinning up a Florida subsidiary and looking to raise $250 million to buy more Bitcoin. Robinhood beating Q1 estimates. Their crypto book was a part of that. Anthony Papagiano raising $200 million for a SPAC. This Ripple one was interesting. Maybe let's drill into this just for a minute or two. Ripple offered Circle $4 to $5 billion to acquire it, and Circle said no. And the reason that's interesting, I guess, is we know Circle is going to IPO soon. So founder and team, supposing are betting they're going to go higher than that in the public market. And that was originally where I thought Circle would open and then perhaps go higher. But then we got a look at some of their financials, and revenue income was down year over year. Revenue down, as well. No. Revenue is not down, but income was down year over year. And I kind of had them penciled in at $2 to $3 billion. So a little surprising to see they rejected it. Mando, curious if you saw this one, if you had any takes.
Feels like a good deal for both companies, in my opinion. I think Circle won't get that valuation, and Ripple needs PMF. And why not just combine? Like no one knows why Ripple's worth $200 billion, and Circle $1 billion difference is going to be a rounding error for them. So, and Ripple's also been trying to get into the stablecoin game for a while. Clearly has a lot of reach in the US. Feels like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah,
like it means that Ripple can stay around for 20 years and everyone can still believe that it's going to replace Swift, So I think this makes sense. I don't know. I think it's come out strategically because potentially Circle's like, I don't know what, $4 to $5 billion, what is that in? Often when a company offers to buy another company, it can be stock for stock, it can be cash. This feels like it could have been in tokens. And I don't know if that's why they rejected it.
Yeah.
But and the fact that it's been leaked at this stage it's clearly been leaked by the Circle guys, right? So my guess is that they probably thought the offer was reasonable, but probably had some clauses and caveats that meant that they didn't want to immediately jump in it. But it did give them a high valuation, and they're like, well, look, these guys gave us this high valuation, but they probably gave the valuation in Ripple, and maybe that's why it was so high. So Yeah, I think that's why this has come out. I still think there's a deal to be done. I mean, Ripple should offer like 8 billion in Ripple.
Yeah.
You know,
it makes sense for them. I feel like they're the biggest like fake it till you make it. It's like we don't know why they're worth anything, but they continue to acquire. Like they made I forget the last acquisition they had, but it was a pretty legitimate player. And then if they acquire Circle, like now they're just starting to build a laundry list of good products with exposure. So maybe we haven't seen the last from these two. We will certainly see, folks. It looks like Boop.fun, the latest new meme coin launchpad from Dingaling, may have just gone live. I'm getting some pings here. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's go time. So they have officially launched. They announced yesterday that they are going to do an airdrop for some folks. It looks like it's going to be based on Kaido mindshare in the meme coin space. They also announced incentives to buy their Boop token. So if you buy Boop, let me see if I can find the tweet from Dingaling here. Yeah, he shared it here. After launch, Boop stakers will continuously receive 5% of the total supply of all new graduated tokens and 60% of all SOL fees from the token LPs. So some pretty interesting incentives here. So they're launching a token launchpad. They're doing an airdrop. The token is live now, and they're giving you incentives to buy and hold this. And they said they're basically attacking a problem in the market that whales, like they might want more exposure to meme coins, but they don't want to spend 8 hours a day at the computer to try to buy the new runners. Well, now they're going to be able to get those passively simply by buying, holding, and staking that Boop token. I think there were some questions around the airdrop, specifically how it's going to work. Dingling kind of alluded to the fact that if you had a big airdrop coming, you were going to have to drop a token yourself to be able to claim it, which is a very interesting caveat. So we will see if that is indeed one of the stipulations. I believe that Boop token is live and trading. Oh, wow. And we missed this one. I knew this was going to do well. Distracted during the show. Didn't have a chance to trade this one. 300 million out of the gate. Congrats to anyone who got in early on this. $25 million volume already. It's been live for about half an hour. I'm grappling with $300 million valuation live in real time. It's high for an untested platform. Their incentives make me think this thing could still go higher, but it's a little riskier at 300 than it was. I mean, when this thing dropped to 100, I think that was a slam buy. 300. What are your thoughts, Bogey?
Well, I'm thinking about this, and I know it's different, but the mechanics here are similar in nature to meme M3, right, from Meteora, in which like you staked your meme tokens to earn fees, trading fees. Right. So it's like that. It's not the exact same. There's additional benefits, right? You earn a percentage of the airdrop, a percentage of the token supply from the tokens launched on the platform, right? But it's still sort of that same sort of thing, like 3 stake this token, earn, a portion of the tokens. And that stuff it always has me a little skeptical. Not just because others have done it and failed, but just, I guess a little bit because of that, but I'm just a little skeptical because I want to see it succeed once first. Like I'm struggling to like actually see it succeed beyond, a week or 2 weeks of speculation and people kind of rallying around the same thing, fun, hey, we're all winning type thing. But if they actually get a bunch of tokens to launch that are successful and they generate a ton of revenue and fees and stuff, then yeah, I mean, it definitely could work. I mean, I think it's 320 million at this point in time in this market is really difficult to grasp with, especially right out of the gate. But I mean, if you see it as a legitimate pump fund competitor, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say that on day one, but if you see it as such, like, I don't know. Is it that crazy to be a $323 million token?
So I'm looking through some of the airdrop mechanics. It looks like your airdrop will unlock after 30 days. But if you launch a token and get it to $5 million, you get it immediately, which is interesting. So if you don't do anything, you'll get access to your tokens in 30 days. But you can speed that process up. And then for folks who are traders, there's going to be an airdrop allocation for traders as well. Buy half a SOL of any token on their platform and you'll get access to it. So man, they've got some very interesting incentives to start using the platform. I'll give them that. I do think this was a pretty well thought out launch. And I've seen now half a dozen of these launch in the last 6 months, 3 months, really. Like GFM, I thought was kind of messy. Pumpkin was promising, and then they kind of fumbled it all. Launch Lab, of course, has done a nice job, and they've seen some real success. So I guess we'll see how Boop can compare to Launch Lab. Man, where are we valuing Pump? If Pump drops the token, where's that thing going to be trading? They're still doing $2 million a day in revenue or in income, $2 million a day in fees. So they're annualizing 500 to 700 million right now. Trades at 5 billion plus. What do you think, Logue?
I don't know. I have to look at the board to see what. It's tough for me to conceptualize 5 billion. So that is like, okay, in the top 30-ish tokens.
That's FDV.
Oh, sorry, you're talking FDV.
Yeah.
Still not too far beyond, not too far below that anyway. That seems reasonable to me. As reasonable as things can be in crypto and stuff, right? Whether it actually makes sense based on the economics, who knows? Who cares? But
yeah,
it wouldn't shock me to see Pump Fun at a $5 billion FDV. Is Boop all out? It's not, right? So
I would imagine. Yeah, I would imagine the circulating is much lower than we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
So stay tuned. We'll talk about this more tomorrow as this develops. And I'm curious, so now we've got more tokens. You'll have more incentive to trade Boop tokens. Is that going to take demand away from some of the others? But while we're on this board, some notable headlines in the DGen streets. This Gork token, I guess X launched a new AI agent. I kind of missed this last night. Token came out, went straight to 20 million, dropped by 50%, and then soared to 60 overnight. I think this is the biggest single day new token runner we've had since the crash in January, February. To hit 60 million this fast, and it's selling off here this morning. But you can already see there's some life in the trenches, and then we start to see these type of plays where if you're not early, they run up super fast, and then if you buy the top, and then you just see the slow bleed out. So these are the kind of charts that I hate, but have to mention it because it was an incredible run. Fartcoin at $1.25. Of course, we talked about Housecoin still hanging out at 100. One of my favorite. The neat revolution. Looks like we're moving up, folks. So neat, making a new all-time high of 50% here as well. So some mixed action. I think some of the others like Troll sold off yesterday. A few other new runners sold off. It's going to be interesting to see how the new dynamics with Boop. I think the other thing here is that the trenches are getting an airdrop, so that we are actively getting an influx of cash. I don't know exactly how much into the trenches. So I imagine a good chunk of that's probably going to go back into some of these. So some trading action to be had. Logie, I asked you to dig into this Worldcoin story, which I felt like was timely because I've been seeing on my timeline a few more folks say that they're building Worldcoin positions. I think DC Investor actually brought it up over this past weekend that he's been building a position. Curious for what the news is here.
Yeah.
If you have a perspective on the token.
Yeah, there were actually a couple of announcements yesterday, the last day of April. This one being the most notable, that they're launching the scanning orbs, which is how you kind of validate and verify your humanity and earn world tokens in the process across 6 major cities in the U.S. Previously, they were only available I don't even know where, right? But worldwide, but not in places easily accessible, of course, for any of the U.S. citizens that now will have access to do so. So 7,500 different orbs. I think there's like a slightly different, less maybe scary looking orb as well to be able to scan with.
Mm-hmm.
To give people access. I was looking, it's about 39 tokens right now, and it actually decreases as more people verify. So the sooner you get out there and scan and provide your biometric data there, the quicker you get your world tokens, the more world tokens you get. So it's about $42 to go ahead and do so. But that was big. That was part of the announcement. They also unveiled at least two other things yesterday. Kind of a world Visa card, which allows you to spend directly from the World app and the World wallet, and just more adoption of like easily using crypto funds without the difficulty of using crypto funds. Right, you just kind of tap your card at any merchant, and it rectifies itself on its own. And then also I saw like a handful of other mini app stuff that they're doing. It's like Kalshi is live in World's mini app stuff. If you want to do prediction market things, they're doing some stuff with Match Group, like Match.com, that owns Tinder and all the other, or at least some of the bigger like social dating apps, to allow users in Japan to use World ID, which is kind of what you're verifying for, right? You use the World ID to verify their age and stuff in Japan, just additional little things. In practice, I was telling you before the show, Tyler, in practice, like the ability to verify your identity, your humanity, that authenticity, that level of transparency, and this is what World is backing on a little bit, is that like it's going to become increasingly important as you have AI producing so much stuff and the realistic nature of the stuff that it's producing. So in practice, I totally get it. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think we've seen this topic of using blockchain and its transparency to validate and verify data and information as a real world use case. So I'm totally with that. The scary part, though, is like, and I can't speak to the technical, risk or anything here, is like you are, putting your eyeball in this little thing, and sort of,
it's so dystopian.
It is, and offering up, that biometric scan.
Like, do you want this guy holding this device up to your face? Like, the answer is no. That's a hard no. Like, as much as like their product does make sense, right? Like the Believe app, one of their projects that just launched yesterday, it creates virtual creators for brands to take cut from the KOLs that you all love on your timeline. They're creating virtual AI based KOLs. Those are fake people, right? So this is how you can verify who's real and who's fake. It's going to be harder and harder to see. So the use case makes sense. Yeah, but I don't want this guy jamming his phone into my face.
Yeah, and the other hard part is, and I'm sure World will continue to fight this battle it needs to continue to fight the battle of messaging why it's safe. I can't articulate that message right now. I'm not equipped to do so. Sam Altman and others, I'm sure, can try to do so. But like, if you want major adoption here, that is a massive hurdle. And getting people to, hand over their, let you scan their eyeballs, which, is a important way to unlock devices, to, all sorts of things. Getting over that, like my parents, I can't imagine. I mean, my mom's skeptical about everything to begin with, but like, there's no way I could ever onboard a single boomer. I can't think of a single boomer that I could onboard to Worldcoin. I don't know if I could onboard any of my existing friends to Worldcoin.
Yeah. On this token, the token is interesting, right? So it's down 75 or more than 70. It's down like 80%, 86% from peak. Starting to curl up a little bit here, trading at $1, but that's a $11 billion FTV. We know there's still massive unlocks on this thing, which I think is why a lot of folks have avoided it. But the narrative of this is the token, this is OpenAI's token, is also pretty strong, right? And you get to buy it at $1.4 billion market cap. I don't know if I had to bet right now on this thing being higher in 3 years or lower, I'm probably betting higher. What side are you on, Logan?
I think higher. Yeah, higher than $1.07. I can see that. I was like, I'm oblivious to some of the things that WorldCoin obviously has been doing. As I mentioned, I can't articulate its case for why you should scan beyond the validating identity and humanity stuff. But like some of those little things about the Tinder use case, whatever, like those are real world things where I actually do think you could start to get real world users. And as you noted, the OpenAI crossover, of course, it's a distinct entity, but there's a lot here that I think it can open the gates to a lot of AI development, a lot of app development that maybe is much harder to integrate. The rest of crypto, is much more difficult to integrate with. I don't know. Developers would have to tell me if their WorldCoin and the World app has a leg up, but there's a world, no pun intended, where I could see that being the case.
Yeah, the Tinder use case, you want to date real verified people. Also, we need the apps that are just AI because we've got a growing portion of the human base right now who is going after the virtual girlfriends and boyfriends. And that seems to be on the rise. Well, folks, that took us through a few of the headlines. We're going to have a conversation here with an old friend, those who may remember back from the Lucky Lead days, the spaces that we were running ahead of our combination with FOMO Hour. Emily Loves Crypto. It's been
What's up?
time. How are you doing?
All right. Did you guys miss me?
Yes, every day, every single day since we've done the show.
Can't have that much excitement, right?
But how are you? How have you been?
Just grinding along, doing my thing, working on my company. We kind of caught up with that yesterday, but I guess there's been a little bit of controversy on the timeline around, the very IP bullish crowd in crypto Twitter. Apparently IP only extends to pictures, not so much content. So yeah, it's been interesting. We've been building along, getting patents and making partnerships, making products for businesses that you don't really hear of. And I mean, I think part of the reason that my company never got to be a big name out there is mostly because why are you looking at my feed? Mostly because we never dropped a coin. But yeah, anyways.
No, let's start with maybe some of the background. So
Sure.
Let's talk about Foolproof Labs, what it was. You've been building it for quite some time.
It is. Okay, so Foolproof Labs is a company that I co-founded in 2022 with another engineer that's in the space, Squibo, and he's launched a ton of stuff as well. But basically, it was around the time that people were talking a lot about theft. It was kind of the tail end of that, I don't know, maybe second wave of major onboarding where we were getting a lot of new people, spaces were going off nonstop, and people were just getting like absolutely wrecked left and right. And he had this idea of how to prevent this from happening with smart contracts, especially because people were using things like token gating, which is essentially a really primitive version of like role-based access control. So we talked about this idea he had, and we decided to, fully flesh it out, build it, and kind of complete a security suite. And once we got those things into like proof of concept levels, everyone was talking about IP and how IP is so valuable. So we were like, we can get IP, and we filed a patent on it. And that was like back in September 2022. And, since I guess in the early days, I was really focused on trying to get projects to adopt the technology. The shadow token was the first thing that we really put out there. We rebranded it later to the Foolproof token, but that was like meant to be a very easy to adopt product. You could use it for free from us. It was a one-click deploy. You just map it to your smart contract. And it does a lot of really neat things. It supports things like automated cancellations based on triggers and also subscription payments and things like that. But it allows you to separate out your, profile elements into a separate wallet. So that's kind of what the primary use case was initially, and we just didn't get much traction doing that. So we kind of pivoted a bit and started creating more extended products for deeper use cases, things like gaming and your profile online, like moderation score. Are you a good online citizen or a bad online citizen? And can we represent that based on this kind of automation of triggers on your behaviors? And that's something that we're like still building in the background. But and we got notification like early last month, I guess, that our patent had been approved. All of our claims have been accepted. It went through with zero litigation. It's called like first action approval, I think. And that's handy, in case someone wants to try to litigate against us, because then there's no like mess that they can pick apart and pick up on. Normally that doesn't happen. Normally it's kind of like a 10% or less of patents that go through get first action approval. Yeah, so we were pretty excited about it, and then I announced it, and I guess that triggered some people. So here we are.
That's the background. So, like,
yeah,
what's been happening in this past week or so since the announcement? I've been seeing on my timeline a bit, but I don't know that I've got the full story. So I want to hear, your side.
Yeah, you bet. So, like early on, we were pretty present. We had like spaces running, and we had I reached out to, I don't know, probably 50 or 60 of the major NFT projects out there. Even in like my old decks, you can see like these big grids where it's like, you've lost over $5 million in assets from your Discord. Are you sure you don't want to have this in there just as a way to like not have people connect in their wallet? And I don't know, I guess whatever. So we used to do like a ton of spaces, reached out to a ton of companies, or NFT projects, I guess. I had meetings with all sorts of people, and for the most part, we just got things like, "Oh, it's not a good time for us now," and the majority of those projects had faded away. And yeah, but there was a good amount of people who actually like knew us at the time and what we were trying to achieve. But it's the tech goes far beyond just that initial use case, really. It's a lot more extensive. So like what you had just flashed a screen up is a model that we call immutable control. And the idea is that a company has the ability to, centralize their permission issuance while maintaining a decentralized record. So you can see who's been given permission, and if that permission's been revoked, and what was that trigger. You can use external things. It could be something like selling your assets, selling a portion of your assets if it's a coin, is some sort of a lapse or expiration that someone didn't go through with. It puts a lot of automation on the blockchain is what it comes down to, and that's something that we currently lack, honestly. You can set up your bots. You can subscribe to things like Cheeto to set up a set of if this then that style actions to ensure a transaction goes through entirely. But just kind of like baseline automation around permissions and permissioning isn't there so much. So yeah, we kind of did this a while ago. You want to look at figure 1 if you want to pull up. This is like the art from our patent that we filed. I think everything but figure 4 is relevant to this patent. Figure 4 is for the other 2 patents that are in our portfolio that we're filing. So yeah, it's got a lot of cool things. And like the thing about a patent is that you don't file it on your specific use case. You kind of imagine all of the different use cases you can and file your patent against that. And I think that's kind of where the drama started. So, yeah.
So you built this, filed a patent, and then TLDR, other teams, companies have been effectively using the IP. Is that the situation?
Yeah, I am, 1, not a lawyer, and 2, have not examined them closely, but there's kind of 2 forms of patent infringement as as it's understood from like the US Patent Office. So there's this process called like claim construction and literal infringement, where the first time someone actually infringes and it like is a case, it the patents themselves are kind of like dissected, or the claims are dissected and reassembled to make like a more, I don't know, understandable version of the patent claims. And if something is violating the primary claim and the supporting claims, and like ours has 3 primaries, and then I don't know, it's 20 claims total, so it's 3 primaries and there's like sub bullets to it. So if something is violating one claim completely, that's called a literal infringement. So if you go through it and you see step by step by step, is it the same thing? Then yeah, it's infringing. And then there's something called like the doctrine of equivalence. And this one is a little funkier, where it's that if you didn't necessarily, how do I say this? You didn't necessarily say literally what they're doing, but it's kind of like a same process, where if it's the process is the same function in the same way and achieves the same result, then it's also considered patent infringement. So it's like, oh, maybe I made this cog a different shape, but like you're achieving the same outcome with the same type of process, then that also counts. And I think there's a lot of ways to compare that to something like an actual image or art, right? So if you look at a piece of art, and then you look at the pixelated version of a piece of art, you're like, oh, I recognize that. That's Starry Night, right? Or like whatever it is. And it's like, at what point is something inspired by, or is something the literal thing itself? And like the music side of things is like a deeply complex variation of this, and there's so many different forms of like production and licensing and like channels that you have to go through. I think music in general is probably a lot closer to like a software invention than art is. But I don't know, I guess it felt a little funny to have people like be so upset by by like what everyone built entire businesses around in crypto.
And so, like, we're talking about the shadow token that you could just roll
Yeah.
out, the specific situation here.
Yeah, well, I mean, we rolled it out in 2022, but it, like I said earlier, it just didn't get that much adoption. So we started, creating these different variations of products. And like one of them was actually a demo that we had given to Yuga, like I was saying earlier, which is like the immutable control model. And it was in regards to the Made by Apes marketplace, where they needed a solution to manage the licenses that they were granting. And I think, this is just my interpretation of it. I think what they were really looking for was a way to constantly update licensing agreements with individuals who had apes, but getting them to agree to the terms as the space evolved, which is really smart. That makes a lot of sense, right? Like, it's not just a blanket access. You have the IP rights, 0 clarifications, whatever. That's like really problematic if you're a serious company. So, I suspect a part of the reason Made by Apes exists is because they were trying to kind of claw back a little bit of the control and the legal headaches that a company ultimately faces if they're like, yeah, do whatever you want. And all of a sudden you have like the same image being printed on diapers and bottles as you do on like weed products. And like, that's a problem from like a brand perspective. There's like no consistency and there's conflict of interest. And it's, you literally can't put things like cartoons on cigarettes and liquor. And like, there's problems there where it's a matter of like who's held accountable. So the demo that we gave them was using the immutable control method, where someone could sign their licensing agreement and it would, be valid for a certain amount of time. And by signing the agreement, that's what triggered the issuing of in our case, like the Foolproof token or the shadow token. And then if they sold their asset, if the asset, the ape like transferred out of their wallet, if there was a lapse, if they wanted to manually revoke it because of some sort of infringement that they caught on their side, all of that is possible with these like shadow tokens, Foolproof tokens. But that's just more of like the moderation side of the use case. But you can see how that's really useful for a brand operating in a decentralized space. The permissions and stuff are really handy. Like we have a lot of these Web3 games, and there's been plenty of games out there that hire a streamer to promote their thing, or they hire a esports team, whatever it is, and then there's some sort of major faux pas that takes place, or like some bad action that happens. And they're like, I don't want to be affiliated with you, but they're like streaming your game. They're really popular. Now your game is affiliated with this like type of personality. And like, that's something you have to reverse out of. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, some of the stuff we've been working on.
So what now? Like, how are you thinking about moving forward? Like, do you regret getting the patents?
No, I don't regret it. But what I have found out actually is that, it's a really tricky thing to, it's a tricky way to, it's a tricky thing to navigate if you don't have a lot of money. And like, I think there's kind of like a misnomer in crypto where like, oh, patents are like the antithesis of crypto, but like literally every major crypto firm out there has tons and tons and tons of patents filed in crypto. And also it's really interesting actually to watch companies that are not quite immersed in crypto issuing patents or applying for patents. So like eBay and PayPal have applied for dozens of them. I think Coinbase has over 1,000 of them. I could have, it might be hundreds. I'm out of it wrong. I forget. I got them confused, but like every single one of these major companies, like Binance and Kraken and Crypto.com, and also services like Fireblocks and Circle, and like all of these major companies that we're used to dealing with that are like really doing this. And even like, Visa and a lot of the major banks, like all these custodial services, all of them have like enormous patent portfolios. So it felt super strange to have people, I don't know, like react so negatively. I'm like, what? You literally deal with like patented products every single day. I don't know what you're talking about here. But like what I found out is that you need to be extremely rich to defend what you own. So what can happen is like, from my perspective, I could like send an email to someone and be like, hey, why don't you come to the table with me? It looks like your product may benefit from a license of our patent, right? And if they get an email from me, they're gonna be like, nah, whatever, bye. Because that's like not a serious threat. But the thing about that is like the next step would be to issue something like a cease and desist, where it's like, you're using this without a license. I'm requesting that you don't do it. Otherwise, we're gonna like take you to court, right? But like if you launch a smart contract and the smart contract doesn't have like any sort of a shutdown function, it's not going away, right? Because it's on the blockchain. So it makes it kind of tricky where it's like they either need to just pay the license fee, or they're going to counter sue you, or I guess they'll sue you and they'll say, oh, we're not actually infringing your patent, prove it, right? And for a lot of companies out there, they could afford to, stomp me to the ground for as long as they feel like, to the point that I can't fight anything anymore. And then if they sue me and win, and I'm forced to liquidate, they would just, like, the most valuable thing that we have is patents. They would just end up with it anyways, which is like bad. That's like really lame, because it costs a lot of money. Like I used a absolutely top tier attorney who's like a patent attorney, and like that's a very unique subset of law, and he used to be a software engineer. So I was like, oh, this guy is the person who's going to be able to understand this. Perfect. And like we had a bunch of really interesting discussions about the concept of like patents on the blockchain. Like one of them was when the time came around where it's like, do I want to pay and maintain the fees? Do I want to pay and maintain the fees around an international patent, which is, I don't know, equates to something like $15,000 a year, or like the nature of the blockchain, which is that it's literally inescapable. Sorry, my partner wants to text me right now. Yeah, so like it's the nature of the blockchain is that like it's going to get validated worldwide, right? And the thing about software is like if anybody buys it, if it's stored, if any function of the software happens on American soil, then that means that patent is fully defensible, right? So or that software license, that infringement is fully defensible. So like I didn't feel that I had to get it internationally. It felt that getting it just in America was enough. And the USPTO is a really strong office, but because there's likely to be a transaction that's validated on US soil, if this software is used, it's basically infallible. So it's kind of impossible to deny when it comes to having a patent of this type. So like if it's traditional software, what you could do is just like not house any of it on American soil. Like say it's a Chinese company, right? They just wouldn't house any of it on American soil and they wouldn't sell to American customers, the end. But because it's the blockchain, any country around the world that wants to use anything of this nature is basically inevitably going to infringe on an American version of the patent. So it's like a complex thing, but it's really interesting in that regard. And like ultimately like if you infringe it, you owe the owner of the patent a license fee. There is no two ways about it. You know, our strategy for pursuing that is not something that we're going to like broadly discuss at this point, but it's kind of undeniable, and I'm not I'm not gonna litigate it because that's like definitely not my area of expertise. But yeah, we ultimately built a sister company that's in charge of generating the revenue, but also separates the IP itself from other business that we have to like create a shelter around it.
Got it. Well, that makes sense. This is a really interesting situation. And I think one of the first I personally have seen and followed along with blockchain and patents.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense conceptually, but then you see the like in operation here. And unfortunately it's getting messy.
I mean, it hasn't, right? It's just like people, oh, yeah, that's my fidget. It's just people, I don't know, having this like visceral reaction to intellectual property. And I just like found it really ironic, right? Because there's like it is like the number one theme that we have never escaped from as far as like NFTs and stuff go. They're like, oh, my IP is so strong. Yes. I'm gonna pay $100,000 for this, $500,000 for this for like IP, and it's like, okay, cool. Like I'm so happy, right? I'm so happy for you and your IP. I can't wait to see what you build with it. And then like I come around and like I've my entire career has been in software and like building software and licensing agreements and SaaS products. And I'm like, oh, look, I have IP too. And they're like, no, not that kind of IP. That's bad. Get out of here with your IP. Like, what? Like my IP is like filed with like the top tier authority. Yours is a picture on the internet, and the bunch of them just got like erased because someone forgot to pay their bill. Like, what are you talking about, dude? Yeah.
I'm with you.
So yeah, anyways, beyond that, we basically like took our IP and built a bunch of other companies and products for it that are like, you know, since we like to talk about real world assets, we've got something like a $5.5 billion art portfolio coming on chain that we're using a lot of the Foolproof technology for.
Nice.
And yeah, like a lot of them, I talked to a lot of people who had, you know, worked at like Sotheby's and Christie's before, because they have like crypto related programs. And I guess the way that crypto programs really got in there is it's like somebody inherits a major art collection from some member of their family, and they have like this pet project where they're like, we should put it on chain to verify it. And then they like force, you know, Christie's or Sotheby's to like adopt it, which is like a pretty interesting channel. But a lot of the art that's being put on chain, or the programs that exist out there, and when I say art, I mean like physical art, not like digital art. So a lot of that art that's being put on chain is like they put a max value on it of like $13,000, and they're worried about their risk, I guess, around that cost. So yeah, like we're putting like art worth tens of millions of dollars on chain. And there's a lot of really interesting side effects of that, where it's like, oh, can you create liquidity around an illiquid asset? Can you put it in a free port? Can it be a tax haven? Like all of these types of things. And then, who is interested in owning a share of something that's really expensive, where the share would also be really, really, really expensive. But it's not, the entire worth of a company type of thing. So there's a lot of stuff going on in that regard. And I just I don't know, I forgot people were paying attention to us, because I never tweet on that account. I'm bad at trading. We've talked about this before. I'm mostly here to make cool things and shit post. Yeah, I'm really bad at trading. I'm always right in the end though. But yeah, I'm just here to make cool things and see where the trends are going, and what other people are making too, and shit post along the way. And
of course,
I guess it's that's not a thing. So I don't know, I kind of accepted our fate that the initial insular community was not going to be the people who adopt this technology. And ultimately the technology is adopted at a much higher level. And it is pervasive, which is why we're really happy we have the patent on it, because, we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting our future ability to gain leverage in the space. And yeah, we kind of I don't know, the company is just in stealth mode, and I put what I thought was a good, exciting announcement on there.
Of course. That's how CT works.
So upset. Okay, sorry. I leveraged my entire nest egg to build a company by myself because I couldn't fundraise because I wasn't dropping a shitcoin. My bad.
Next time, just drop the shitcoin. We've got new launch pads that make that easy. As of this morning. Well,
oh God, that tokenomics gave me acid reflux. I then talk about self-cannibalizing yourself. Anyways.
Well, Emily, it's been good to catch up.
Yeah.
Congrats on the patent.
Thanks.
Sorry, this situation's been it's excited to hear about your new use cases. Getting into
there's cool. There's
art world. So
there's cool stuff out there. Yeah.
We'll have to continue this conversation.
Yeah, you bet.
In the future, definitely be interested in more about how things are going. But it was good to catch up. You
too.
Thanks for joining us here this morning.
With the faces too. This is new for us.
Yeah, not just talking over the phone, over breakfast.
This is more stable though. Yeah.
Yes, a bit more stable. Thank you for joining us. That is going to be our show here today. I want to thank our listeners as always. Thank our partner. Thank Emily for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow to close out the week. Sir Gito is going to be stopping by to talk markets and MEBITs. So you're going to want to tune in for that one. As for today, go make it a great day. Goodbye.